Let's continue on our math review together. This problem is a multi-step problem. That means I'm going to need to make sure that I understand the word problem, take each step needed to get to the final answer that they're asking me about. The biggest mistake we make with multi-step word problems is that we stop when we've solved some of the math, but we haven't actually made it to our final answer. So let's read carefully and figure out what we're trying to solve. As part of Miss Doherty's own training, she is trying to log 1,000 miles. So far, she has gone on 28 12-mile trail runs and has kept a list of the past 25 times she has done a 3-mile jog on her treadmill. How many more miles does she need to run to meet her goal of 1,000? Show all of your work. That last sentence I understood for sure. I'm going to have plenty of space to show all of my thinking. But there are a lot of numbers listed here, so I'm definitely going to go back and read the word problem again. Sometimes I like to just read the question part so I understand what I'm trying to solve. And then I go back and read the rest. How many more miles does she need to run to meet her goal of 1,000? Okay, so the goal is to jog 1,000 miles. That's what I want all of this to equal. The question says, how many more miles does she need to run? So she's run some, and she needs to run some more, however much that is, and she's hoping to run 1,000 miles total. So these are some notes I can take as I'm thinking about what I'm trying to solve. Let's start back at the top. As part of Miss Doherty's own training, she is trying to log 1,000 miles. So far, she has, this tells me what she's already done. She has run 28 times. She has gone on 28 12-mile runs. Okay, so 28 runs, and each of those was 12 miles. Notice here the number of runs and the distance of each one, a 12-mile trail run. Okay, and she's kept a list of the past 25 times she has done a 3-mile jog on her treadmill. So 25 times she has jogged on her treadmill. And each of those jogs was 3 miles in length. Wow. So I see here at least 2 steps to my problem solving. I need to know how many miles were all of these trail runs together, and how many miles were all of these treadmill runs, and then I'm going to need to put those together. All right, let's break this down. I think a lot of you, when you see 28 times 12, would use the turtle method. So I'm going to come down here and use the turtle method to solve the first step of my problem, 28 times 12. I'm just moving this piece of work here so that I have enough space to make sure I do what it says, show all of my work. In the turtle method, you start by drawing your turtle head to help you separate and keep track of where you are in the problem. When I've got my turtle, it's just a reminder of the steps I take. I multiply in the ones place, 8 times 2, which is 16. I multiply the ones place by the tens place, 2 times 2 is 4, plus the one at the top that I carried is 5. When I move over to my next column, I do the 3 steps of the turtle method. I check off what I carried, draw a collar, because I'm done with the ones place, and drop my turtle egg. Then I continue in my tens place with my multiplication. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. I have now done all of the multiplication, and I add up. 6 plus 0 is 6. 8 plus 5 I have to carry. Remember to think you could do 5 plus 5 is 10, plus the 3 more, if that helps you out. And 1 plus 2 is 3. I'm running out of space here. So when you do your work on the test, feel free to use as much space as you need. All right, so if I feel like I'm done, I need to make sure I back up a minute and remind myself that this was just the solution to part of my problem. I now know that when Miss Doherty is doing those trail runs, she has run 336 miles. And that's just one piece of my final problem. This is a multi-step problem, so I need to know that I do more to find the final answer. Let's do the next problem here. Here we have 25 times 3. If I want to relate it back to the word problem, I remind myself that that is 25 times she has gone for a 3-mile jog on her treadmill. I can come down here and do that problem as well. I could choose to do traditional multiplication method, or some of you might already be thinking, oh, 3 groups of 25, that's like 25 and 25 is 50, another 25 is 75. You might use that counting by 25s if you're counting up quarters. But if you show your work down at the bottom, that's great too. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. Great. So I've completed 2 parts of my problem. Let's remind ourselves, though, what the full question is. How many more miles does she need to run to meet her goal of 1,000? Here I know how much she has run outside, and I know how much she's run inside on the trails and on her treadmill. I need to put those together. Let's put those together and find out how much she has already run. 336 miles, right here, plus the 75 miles. Put those together. 5 plus 6 is 11. 7 plus 3 is 10. I have one more that I carried to make 11. 3 plus 1 is 4. I'm going to double check my work because I noticed, okay, good. I had solved this problem earlier and I thought I got something slightly different. So I want to check. 6 plus 5 is 11. 7 plus 3 is 10 plus 1 more, 11. And 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, great. Now I feel confident. Even teachers go back and double check. Now I know how much she has already run. Right here is where that can go. She ran 411 miles so far. And now I need to figure out how much more does she need to go? How much more in order to equal the total of 1,000 miles? Now, you could always do the opposite or inverse operation of addition, which would be subtraction. You could change this problem into a subtraction problem. You're saying, if I have to go 1,000 miles, and I've already done so much, I've already done 411, how much is left for me to run? How much is left when you subtract? To do this subtraction problem, you would need to do a lot of borrowing, right? Because if you line it up vertically, you'll have 1,000 minus 411. And since you can't do 0 minus 1, you'd start to look to its neighbor. Can I borrow? There's nothing there to borrow. Can I borrow? There's nothing there to borrow. So here, you would go ahead and borrow from here. There's nothing left here. You bring that 1 into your hundreds place. Then you still are looking for this neighbor to have something to borrow. There's nothing to borrow yet, so you're going to continue along your path here. You take 1 away, so you have a 9 left. You borrow that over into, oh, can't see that very well, into the tens place. Aha, now you have something to borrow. Here's your 0 minus 1. This is where you started, and you said, I need something to borrow. Now this neighbor has something to borrow. You take one of the groups and you put it here. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. 9 minus 4. Whoops, my cursor just stopped. What is 9 minus 4? There you go. This is how many more miles she needs to run. However, I want to show you one more way to calculate this, just in case all of this borrowing from zeros becomes a little confusing. This is not the spot we want you to make mistakes. We want you to feel confident. So let's come on down and choose one more method we can use. So it looks like 589 miles is my final answer. 589 miles, I can double check by adding it back up with my 411 she's already run, just to make sure we're checking our work on a test day. 9 plus 1 is 10. 8 plus the 2 is another 10. 4 plus 5 plus 1 more is another 10. So now I feel confident in my answer because I went back and double checked. Miss Doherty needs to run 589 more miles to reach her goal of 1,000 miles. But as I said, I'm going to show you a second way. When you get to this subtraction, if you don't feel confident borrowing with all those zeros, remember you can also draw yourself a line and think about how far she wants to make it. Here she is. She's hoping to make it to 1,000 miles. And think about where she's run so far. She's already run 411 miles. You can use this number line to make jumps until you get to 1,000. So if I'm trying to move up to friendly numbers, I might choose to go up 9. Because if I go up 9 miles, if she runs 9 miles more, then she will have run 420 miles. I'm trying to get all the way to 1,000. Another jump that might help me is to get to 500. So I can think, oh, if I'm trying to get up to 500, how big of a jump was that? How many more miles did she need to go? That would be 80 more miles to get 240 up to 500. And then my final jump is a nice friendly jump, 500 miles up to 1,000 miles. She needs 500 more miles to make that distance. Then across the top here, I can add up my jumps and see that the total number of miles she needs to go to get from 411 up to 1,000 is 589. I just add those up. And both of those ways will get you the right answer. That is the beauty of math. So many different methods, all leading to the one same answer. The key for reading and doing well on a problem like this is to make sure you read and understand. You break up your problem into multiple steps, and then you make sure that you're answering the one question it's asked you for. Multi-step problems have simple steps. You just have to make sure you follow your train of thought, and you guys will do great.